You are now watching Maine Wire TV with your host, Tom Shattuck, featuring Maine Wire Editor-in-Chief Steve Robinson and the indispensable John Featherston.
Man, what a weekend this was. This was a crazy weekend. Thankfully, John Featherston documented a hell of a lot of it. We've got my new favorite organic song from Maine has been dropped over the weekend for the No Kings rally. We're going to hit all of that stuff, so stay with us. First, I want to bring in Maine House Minority Leader Billy Bob Faulkingham, who's been embroiled, Billy Bob, in a scandal here. You've been fined for having a 14-year-old doing hard labor on your lobster boat. What say you, sir?
I may be embroiled, but I'm not boiled like a lobster. I think that's what's going to happen to these Democrats in the state of Maine. Playing an Uno reverse card on them. They thought they had me. They've weaponized the government against me.
Mm-hmm.
They have come after my life. They've tried to ruin my life. And, you know, when you attack a man's livelihood and how he earns a living and go after someone personally like that, that's an attack on my family and, you know, how I put food on my children's dinner plate. And I won't accept that. That's exactly why I'm here. That's why I do what I do, is to fight for them and fight for their future. And if they thought that putting this on me would get me to shut up, or coming after me like this would make me, you know, talk less, shut up more, not talk about the audits, not talk about the fraud, not talk about the highway robbery that's happening to Maine taxpayers, not talk about the destruction of my children's future, they picked the wrong guy.
So what's the truth on the merits? So what happened here? What did you do? What did they suggest you did? And what is the truth?
Yeah. So I'll give you the synopsis, but basically right out of the gate, I'm on the right side of this legally, but I'm also on the right side of this morally and traditionally. So the synopsis is my best friend's, or my son's best friend. I'll try not to use his name, even though that's going to be hard because he's so close to us. He's basically part of our family. He's the closest thing my son has to a brother. He's the closest thing I have to a godson. He's been our neighbor since he was 3 years old. He's an only child. Plays either baseball or basketball in the yard with my son every day, daily. That's who he is to us. He goes on school shopping trips with us. We go to his baseball games, his basketball games, everything. That's who he is to us. And this is a relationship that I'm sure many people up and down the coast of Maine have kids like this. My son Carter was going lobstering that summer. He was actually, my dad was taking him a lot. And I think, man, it's going to be hard not to say his name. I think he was seeing some of the money Carter was making, and he kept asking me to go on the boat, begging me to go on the boat. And of course I'd take him. I'd do anything for this kid. I would have taken him full time if he wanted to. I would help him get in the industry if he wanted to. But at this point in time, it was just basically to get an entry on the boat, to go check it out. So he came on the boat. My son Carter, who's a couple years younger than him, taught him how to band lobsters, taught him how to bait bags. Just pretty entry level stuff that you do for any kid that age. He went with me 3 more times after that, for a total of 4 times throughout the whole entire summer. I did what any good person would do. I gave him some money for what he did. I know there was some accusations that I only paid him $50 a day and whatever, and not that really matters, but I paid him much more than that. He made between $80 and $140 in those 4 days, $560 total for four days. These were like 4 or 5 hour long days. Anyway, so that's what he did, and that was the experience. Sure, he was very proud of it. He got to go back to school and tell his friends that he'd gone on a lobster boat in the summer, and didn't think anything at all of it. Do you want me to stop there?
Well, let me just say something here. So I've got a son, a 12-year-old who shoveled out driveways this year. He had one client, one person next door, and then another person saw him doing it, and they loved the idea of it so much that he did it for them too. And I've never been more proud of him. The stories that you're talking about seems like how America should be. So who dimed you out? Or was this on social media somewhere? How did they find out?
Well, absolutely. I mean, if you looked at it that way, everybody that's paid a kid to mow their lawn, shovel, do any type of little thing, if you give them some money for their work, I guess the Democrats are going to determine you as an employer and say that you didn't record the wages and the hours that they worked, and they're going to come after you. But actually, no, they're not. They're just coming after me because I've been effective. I've been a thorn in their side. We've had a lot of attention around the corruption that's been happening in Augusta. And obviously,
who blew on you? Who dropped a dime? Like, who set you up?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm the third ranking Republican in the state of Maine. Susan Collins is the highest. Senator Trey Stewart is higher. And then, behind that, there's me. I'm the House Republican leader. So, when you look at it that way, I'm the third ranking Republican in the state of Maine right now. And this did not come down without the approval of the highest levels of government. So, I'll just leave it at that. I can't, it will be interesting if I can get my hands on some records to see if there were communications made. I do know that there was a very heated budget meeting that took place. We were invited to Jeremy Kennedy's office, the governor's chief of staff, for a budget meeting. When we got in through the door, it was myself, my chief of staff, and my deputy chief of staff. Earl Bierman's my chief of staff. John McGow was my deputy chief of staff, who was also the former chief of staff of Governor Paul LePage. We came into a meeting. It wasn't what we were expecting. We thought we were going to talk about the budget. I was going to ask questions about program integrity audits, information that we wanted to participate in the budget process. What we walked into was an absolute tirade, a foul-mouthed tirade, screaming about, of all things, a Maine Wire article. He was flapping a copy of a Maine Wire article, going right at me about some quote that I had in the article. I hadn't even seen the article or saw the quote. He was very upset and incensed about it. I believe I read the quote, and it was one of my standard quotes. I'm very, very purposeful with what I say, and I don't remember the article in particular. I think it was about the budget, but I think the quote was very, matter of fact. But regardless, that's what it was about. I started to explain how there was a bunch of information that we wanted as Republicans. At one point, he was saying derogatory things. I think he called me stupid, called me lazy, asked me why I don't hire more effing staff. And that at that point, my chief of staff, who's been around a long time, was like, "I'm not taking it any more of this, Jeremy. You know better than that." And he stormed out of the room. And I was like, "Are you kidding? You know I can't hire more staff. We just want the answers to these questions. We want to know about program integrity audits. How else are we supposed to make an educated, impact on this budget if we don't know the details?" And I had seen some of these program integrity audits that had been leaked, and there was millions of dollars in fraud, and they were expecting us to vote on these budget things without knowing this information. At that point in time,
I
I
think
really
just
had no idea how far this fraud stuff would go. I had no idea. It's gone well beyond anything I could have ever imagined at that time. But obviously, I think he probably knew how far it went at that point in time. So I'm just speculating. I don't know if that had anything to do with it or not, but it was 3 weeks later, I get a call from the Department of Labor. And I'm like, okay, why don't you come to my office? So this guy came to my office and started asking very weird questions about the story that I just told you,
yeah,
about the kid that went on the boat. And he was very trying to, get me to answer all these questions without representation and stuff like that. And, I'll be honest. I was just honest with him. I didn't have anything to hide. I didn't hide any information. I didn't try to be cute with it. I didn't try to say, like for example, that I paid the kid less than $600. I know you can give someone a gift for that amount. I didn't try to be cute for it. I was honest. I took the kid on the boat. I gave him some money for it. Never hid anything from them. He asked how many times he went. I was like, I honestly don't remember. It was not very many, but I can look at the checks and get back to you on that. So that's what I did. I sent him the checks. Uh, Honestly, I kind of figured something that stupid and that silly and that industry wide practice that has gone on for generations would never be something that they would come back with a labor violation. So uh, there was also some stuff he tried to get me to fill out that just did not apply to the fishing industry. So,
Like what?
forms that were like employer forms that didn't apply to me. Um, every sternman in the lobster industry is an independent contractor. That's how the business works. That's an industry standard that goes back as long as anybody can remember. I don't know if there's a start point to it, but if I had to guess, I'd say it goes back to at least the 1950s that sternmen were determined to be independent contractors. And this is the same way all 5,000 licenses handle this in the state of Maine. It's that's just the law. That's just the way it is. So a time passed, and then we received the violation, and it was outrageous. It was thousands of dollars, over $7,000, I think. They said that I had taken a minor in a hazardous occupation, that I didn't keep wages and hours recordings, and it was just insane to me. The state of Maine issues licenses to 8-year-olds, so I don't know how that same state government, that same administration could come back with a finding that this was a dangerous occupation when they make money and sell licenses to over 700 student license holders. And the hours and wages thing just doesn't apply. Like I said, it doesn't apply. We're like agriculture. I've even in my pocket, I've got a tax card that's given out to people that are in agriculture. That's agriculture, loggers, and fishermen all have these things. We're all in the same category. Just like off-road fuel, lobstermen don't have to pay the tax on fuel, just like agriculture people. So these standards just don't apply to us, and that's why every industry organization is already behind me, outraged. I've got the NEFSA is behind me, the Maine Lobstermen's Association, the Maine Lobster Union. I've even received support online from the former Commissioner Pat Kelleher, former State Representative Genevieve McDonald, have all expressed support for me online. So it's just an absolute outrage. And the way that they targeted me to try to take me out, to go after me because of who I am and what I've done, has serious ramifications, not just for the fishing industry and the lobster industry, but for every heritage industry in the state of Maine.
And I think we should pause at this point because Tom, I don't know if you were around for
I
Jeremy
think you're muted,
Kennedy's.
Steve,
Am I
or at
muted?
least I don't hear you.
I can hear him.
Are people not able to hear me? Are you able to hear me at all, Billy Bob?
I can hear you. John and I can. Billy Bob, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't hear Steve.
Steve, would you like me to translate?
Well, this is for your benefit anyways, Tom, because
Okay.
what I was going to say is that Jeremy Kennedy is the one at the White House when Janet Mills had her infamous blow up with the president and said, "I'll see you in court." Jeremy Kennedy is the one who the following day had a hissy fit and stormed out of the room, the meeting of the chiefs of staff, and forgot his bag in the hall where everyone was having breakfast and had to stand out in the doorway waiting until everyone left. And everyone left and walked by and saw this nitwit from Maine, this bald, obese, greasy nitwit from Maine, standing embarrassed at the doorway. And so he could go back in and get his bag. So that's the individual that we're talking about here. And it shocked nobody who's been in the State House that he would be involved in that down in Washington, D.C. and embarrass the state of Maine like that. And it will shock no one who's been around the State House that he would do something retaliatory like this toward Billy Bob. And I have no doubt that a phone call was placed to the Department of Labor. And in a serious state where the laws were followed, you could submit a Freedom of Access Act request and obtain those records. But we don't live in a serious state. We live in a mafia state. And the fish rots from the head down. And that kind of activity is condoned by Janet Mills. And I'm sure that they did this not just to bully Billy Bob, but to send a message to Democrat and Republican lawmakers alike that if you don't toe the party line, they're going to come after you and crush you. I mean, looking at the details of this case, they came after him for having a minor on a boat and found out that didn't apply. So then they found this other violation that you didn't keep a time card. It was a show me the man, I'll show you the crime.
Yes.
It's the same thing they did to Rick Savage. It's the same thing they did to Merrill Nass. This is a regime, a tyrannical regime that will punish people with the full power of the government. And, I know Billy Bob has a few people who are, posting support of him, Genevieve McDonald and Patrick Kelleher. But where are the Democratic lawmakers?
Yeah.
Is Jeremy Kennedy walking around with their testicles in his handbag? Or do they have, some masculinity and some testosterone? Can they stand up for themselves and point out that this is wrong? We'll see. I don't know. What is it? Silence is violence. Silence is complicity here. Until I see the Facebook posts from all of these Democratic lawmakers condemning this vile witch hunt, I'm just going to assume that they support this kind of thing. Because it's not just an attack on Billy Bob. It's also an attack on a Maine way of life, like Maine culture. Young people working, like 14-year-olds should be able to use weed whackers and go on lobster boats and work. That's how you learn, the work ethic. That's how you, learn a job. And this progressive campaign to infantilize people, infantilize especially young men, is contributing to the downfall of our society.
Yes.
Well,
Billy Bob,
I've got
go ahead,
a fun anecdote. Maybe it's because Billy Bob was the guy who got me into the House chamber. When Ryan Fecto was having his little...
I'm going to have to watch the show for the audio.
You can't hear him. You can hear me, though, right?
I can hear you.
Okay, so Steve mentioned that no Democrats really have your back, except for a couple. Are you surprised that Steve had mentioned that this is so on brand for Maine? Of course you're going to teach a 14-year-old kid how to do lobster, work on a lobster boat. Of course, it's like the lifeblood, the spirit of Maine. So, are you surprised more people haven't said, hey, Billy Bob, we have differences, but this is BS, and I'm sorry it's happening to you?
I know at least one that does privately, but I don't know if any of them will speak up publicly. That remains to be seen.
They're that afraid, huh?
Yeah, I'm not really surprised. I mean, I've been watching these people for 8 years, and even when they agree with you, even when some of them agree with you, they're like not allowed to if it doesn't come from the top.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard about this. That sometimes you see some people walking out of leadership's office in tears from these Democrats. It sounds like it's like Steve said. It sounds like the mafia. So, are you at all bothered by the fact that apparently somebody was surveilling your boat, and that means they were also surveilling two minors on the boat? That whole thing seems creepy, if not illegal.
I don't put anything past these people.
Hmm.
I mean, I really don't. I mean, it's gotten to a new level for people that didn't think it happened in our state or state politics. Well, I'm here to tell you that it does.
One last thing before I let you go, Billy Bob, and thanks for your time here. The 14-year-old, and we won't use his name, but it sounds like he's like an extended member of the family. Is
Yeah.
he aware of all this stuff, and is he been bothered by this, and how does that make you feel?
I kept it from him and his family as long as I could. I knew they'd be hurt by it. I went over to the house a couple days ago when the news came out to be the first one to tell them. They were pretty devastated by it. They were very hurt. They asked if there was anything they could do to help.
Well,
Yeah, they're really hurt by this. And they never spoke to the kid. They never spoke to the kid or his parents the whole time that he made this determination. Never once spoke to the kid. He didn't even get the name of the boat right on the citation. It was a predetermined conclusion. There was a conclusion made. There was a fake investigation. He applied standards that don't apply to the lobster industry.
people know
Like I said, there's
they toss
this
some of
in
these charges out, right? They toss some of these.
the hearing officer did. Yeah. Yeah. Not the department, but the hearing officer.
Did you do you have the name of the Department of Labor person who talked to you?
His name's Bart.
Bart?
It's, yeah. Yeah.
Do you know Bart's last name? I mean, he's not a private person. I mean, if he's a member of the
No,
government.
it's right on the documents. I think it was Bart Hutchinson.
Okay. Okay, gotcha. Yeah. So I mean, this is to me, this is, and to the people in the chat right now, people are just furious that they would tamper with something that's so damn American, absolutely on brand for Maine.
Yeah.
Kidding me? And what is your next step?
Well, I just want to reiterate that this doesn't happen without the approval at the highest levels of government. You don't get a rogue Department of Labor investigator going after the third ranking Republican in the state of Maine without it rising to the very top of the department. So this was okayed by the administration. This was okayed by the Janet Mills administration to go through on me, totally ignoring the horrifying of consequences this could have, like I said, not only on Maine's lobster industry, but on every heritage industry in the
Yeah.
state of Maine. That if you can pervert these statutes, that you can pervert these things and twist them and take standards that are for other labor sectors and apply them to agriculture and fishing in this way, to say that someone's violating child labor laws, they threaten to destroy every heritage industry in our state. And that's one thing the Democrats are good at, is ruining everything. So it's a fact. These people have got to go. They have got to go. This is evil. It has been hard to deal with these people, but when they come after someone's life like this, and I'm not the only person they've done. They do this to people that resist them. They do this to people that are effective. They do it to people that are resonating with the public a message that they don't want. I can't even believe I'm here right now. I am here just because I am a normal Maine person. I am a lobster man. I went to 1 year of community college for plumbing, but I represent the Maine people. I'm married to a woman. I
Wow.
have 3 kids who I love. We have a happy family, and we live life the way people want to live it. We're not rich. We're not poor. We're in the middle. We're living the American dream, and they want to ruin that. And they want to ship all 3 of my kids out of this state because they want to make it so unaffordable
Yeah.
that they can't live here and turn this place into a national park for a bunch of retired liberals.
Yeah.
And I won't have it. They picked the wrong guy. I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees, and I will fight with everything I've got to stop them.
Well, thank you for your time, Billy Bob. And it's good to know that these Democrats are on the lookout for young men learning how to catch lobsters while there's so much Medicaid fraud happening in the state. Real money is being lost and stolen from Mainers who can't afford to live and can't afford their own health care now. And that's all facilitated by the Democrats. I hope this all works out for you. I hope that kid's back in your boat. And I hope that we can get past this and this is a winning issue for you. Maine House Minority Leader Billy Bob
Thanks.
Faulkingham, thank you for your time, my friend.
Thank you.
Pleasure. 1 second. Hey, fellas.
Hey.
Well, that was an interesting. I should have said Bart Hutchinson making almost $100,000 a year. That's the Bart.
Yep.
Of
I just wanted to be clear that we all knew who we were talking about here. Not that I'm snooping around Bart Hutchinson's past, or I'm going to be outside surveilling his house, seeing if he's involved, in paying some 14-year-old kid to shovel his driveway. But everybody should know that old Bart here's making $100,000 a year in taxpayer money to carry out the jackbooted thuggery of the Rainbow Mafia. I mean, this is, Janet might have signed off on this, but this is Jeremy Kennedy, her chief of staff, who is, cohabitating with Matt Moonen, the majority leader in the House. This is pure Democrat leadership, Rainbow Mafia, Thug 101. That's exactly what this is. And they'll come for each one of us. They'll come for anybody who sticks their head up, anyone who complains. So it's a two-pronged war. It's a war on traditional Maine work ethic, the traditional New England Protestant work ethic, kids getting involved in working and learning, skills, the kind of kids that Jeremy and Matt will never have. They'll never have to teach a kid how to work on a lobster boat. And it's a war on political dissent. And all of it is repugnant. And every single Democrat lawmaker, every government employee, state employee who sits silent while something like this happens, shame on you. Shame on you. You'll go stand on some overpass with a Ukraine sign or put your hate has no home sign in your front yard, but you can't stand it. You want to talk about fascism? You want to talk about government tyranny? This is what it looks like when the leadership of the minority party has the full weight of the government coming down to try and crush him with tens of thousands of dollars of fines. This is exactly what it looks like. And a responsible society, a serious society wouldn't tolerate this kind of thing. And Bart wouldn't be allowed, to show his face in public for fear of people hissing at him and screaming, shame, shame, like in Lord of the Rings, or what is it? Not Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
Sorry, don't want to mix up my references there.
Well, and John, is there any more like American good positive story than kids taking the summer or wherever they do it to work on a lobster boat, to like learn an honorable skill and trade?
I mean, this is just, as Steve said, this is disgusting. I mean, there's no other word for it. It's disgusting. Here he is, a nice guy trying to do a nice thing for a family friend, throwing in a couple extra bucks. I mean, would he have been better off? It seems like he would have been better off if he had to pay the kid. And he was just paying the kid to be a nice guy. It's the classic, no good deed goes unpunished. I want to know, and please, boss, send me to the State House so I can start knocking on doors. I want to know who ratted him out.
It was
That's
Crash
sure.
Berry. I mean, very
Yeah.
obviously, Crash Berry, the fat stoner who was going after Corn Pop for a little while until we embarrassed him and got his, looks like he's having triplets there. We got that spread up on the Daily Mail. But this guy's been harassing him and surveilling him for a long time, and so that's who's setting labor policy for the state of Maine. And, if Crash Berry catches you, with a 14-year-old helping out around the boat, the Department of Labor inspector is going to come get you. And meanwhile, we talked about all the Medicaid fraud happening, but like human slavery as well. There's a whole bunch of human trafficking happening at the Chinese cannabis houses. There's sex trafficking happening at all the Asian massage parlors. There's labor trafficking happening at the Medicaid Section 21 facilities. All that's going on, and they seem to have no problem with that. Can't be bothered to investigate that. But with Billy Bob or Rick Savage or Merrill Nass, suddenly they're Inspector Clouseau. They unleash the full weight of their investigative talents.
Well, all I'm going to say is not a week goes by that somebody doesn't say I should peek my head into a Vesta housing. That's all I'm going to say. Stop talking. But you know what I'm saying.
All right. Well, maybe the Speaker Fecto, an employee of Avesta Housing, maybe he would give you an invite and a tour.
Wouldn't even let me into the chamber, and that's what I was trying to say to Billy Bob. Maybe this is all because Billy Bob is the man who came out and got me into the chamber when Fecto was having his temper tantrum. And if you look at the timeline, it kind of matches up a little bit. So.
Well, and I think the new standard operating procedure is that we're all deputized now to get binoculars and just watch people doing things recreationally in public waters and public areas, so we can join the fight. I want to rat somebody out and ruin somebody's unofficial.
Well, I got a place for you, Tom. I got a place for you. You think if you hung outside the Somali Bantu farm that got all the taxpayer money, you wouldn't find anyone over 18 potentially working in that field?
You might bring a cadaver dog up there. You might find where all the immortal Somalis are buried, minus their EBT cards. Yeah, I mean, just the hypocrisy all around is stunning here. And I don't make a habit of reading the taxpayer-funded newspapers, but from what I've seen of the screenshots that have been texted to me, it seems like they're not even buying this. Everybody knows that this is just a total joke. And another one we didn't even bring up was Greenie's turkeys. The turkey farm last year before Thanksgiving, where some nitwit gender and women's studies moron who lucked their way into a government job decides that like 500 or 1,000 turkeys need to be destroyed a week before Thanksgiving because the labels were printed at like an oblique angle or something. Perfectly fine birds, according to all of the USDA tests in the state. Scientists wouldn't even let them be donated to a food cupboard. I mean, this is just the most insane, Kafkaesque government regime involved. It's like nasty, mean, stupid people in charge of government. And I hope that Billy Bob and the Republican apparatus have the resources, the financial resources to mount an actual legal fight against this, because only by legally resisting this and forcing them to suffer embarrassing losses are you going to push back against this thing. But one of the problems is Bart Hutchinson's not paying for the lawyer. The head of the Department of Labor isn't paying for the lawyer. We are. So Billy Bob is simultaneously paying for the rats to investigate his boat and come after him and slither around his office and ask him questions. And he's paying for the lawyers to send him these letters threatening him with fines. And he has to pay for his own legal defense. So he's right when he says that the only way you can put an end to the mafia state is by kicking these people out of power.
And it's the Democrat silence on this one speaks volumes. Speaks volumes.
We should email them all. We should email every single one of them and give them an opportunity to stay silent or to let us know how they feel. Because I haven't seen an outpouring of resistance to this kind of behavior. And again, this comes like right from the top down from Jeremy Kennedy, and any Democratic politician who hires him in the future. A pox on them. For allowing that kind of thuggery into your ranks.
Yeah, well, Billy Bob said himself that it came from Janet Mills. It was unequivocal. He said it came from Janet Mills. And Steve, you said it's both mean and stupid. Well, what's more worrisome, that she would harass this guy like this, try to take him down like this? That's mean. Or is it more worrisome that it's stupid that you'd go after a Maine lobsterman for teaching somebody how to do lobster boat stuff? Like, it's amazing. That's the one thing you say, no, we're not doing that. We can't do that. We're not doing that or logging. Get him on something else. But everybody signed off on it. It's like, it seems like a misguided attack.
I think they've gotten away with it for so long. And frankly, before the Maine Wire came along, there was no one to even document these abuses of power. For every case like this with Billy Bob, there's 10 that nobody finds out about because the victims are too scared to come forward. Think about really almost all of this revolves around Medicaid fraud. Billy Bob's original meeting with Jeremy Kennedy, when he was flapping around a Maine Wire story, was about the notices of violation that had been sent to organizations like Gateway Community Services. Billy Bob was asking for more information about Medicaid fraud. And that's why they, threw a tantrum. The Republicans were essentially saying, we want to have better insight and more information about Medicaid fraud before we decide what we're going to do about the budget. That's our ask. We'll come to the table and talk with you guys about a potential bipartisan budget. We just want more information about Medicaid fraud. They wouldn't turn it over. They wouldn't provide it. Instead, they get angry and try to destroy Billy Bob's livelihood. But think about the original whistleblower on Gateway Community Services, who came forward and said that for 5.5 years, he witnessed systemic defrauding of Medicaid. After he comes forward, he gets a letter from Maine Revenue Services. What a surprise. They've decided to audit him. He hasn't lived in Maine for 3 or 4 years because he moved to Florida to get away from COVID tyranny up here, and had never been audited before, never had an adverse letter like that from Maine Revenue Services. Suddenly, right after he speaks out to the Maine Wire and blows the whistle on fraud, Maine Revenue Services says, hey, we'd like to take a closer look at your accounts here. The list goes on and on. Rick Savage, Merrill Nass, Billy Bob, Greenie's Turkeys, Chris Bernardini at Gateway Community Services. You poke your head up and you blow the whistle on Democrat corruption, and they're going to try to destroy you. And that should make everyone who calls themselves a Democrat or a liberal very, very uncomfortable, because that's fascism. Is what it is. Yes. You want to oppose fascism and government tyranny, then you should probably stop supporting Maine Democrats, because right now they are the embodiment of fascism.
So I would also say this. I would have three questions right now for another high-profile political fisherman. I would like to know how Graham Plattner, what he feels about this. The story. I would like to know if he himself has ever had somebody on his boat who's underage do some work. And then I would like to see if his story actually melds well with the truth. But it seems to me, if we were to ask Graham Plattner a question about this, it would really be illuminating very much, and definitional, as a matter of fact, to see what kind of guy he is.
Well, Billy Bob actually fishes, for one thing. So I don't know is Graham going to throw the kid helping him some Xbox credits or something, like, hey pal, I'll let you take a spin of my World of Warcraft account if you come haul the one crate of oysters that my quote unquote business has. He's lucky though. Graham Plattner's lucky not having an actual business. You can't have actual employees and get into actual trouble. Maybe that's the secret to his success.
Well, Steve listed out a lot of examples of the Dems going after people. One thing you didn't list, Steve, was the Laura Libby censure. And when that happened, and that was another outrageous example, when that happened, if I was a legislator, I would have spent my entire night going through every Democrat's social media page, and I would have launched 100 censures at Democrats the next day just to fight fire with fire in that one. I distinctly remember there was one censure. I want to say it was maybe against Nina Milliken, but I could be wrong on that. And Billy Bob shut it down. And Billy Bob said, hey, we're Republicans, we're better than this. The censure process shouldn't be used as a weapon.
Yep. There was
And it's
Nina Milliken praising the cop killer Assata Shakur, who's hiding in Cuba.
So how many times do we need to do this song and dance before the Republicans start actually fighting back here? Like, I'm kind of sick of this we're better than attitude. We're going to do it the right way, because it's getting them nowhere. They're just getting, every single time there's another example where the Democrats do some dirty trick like this and everyone complains and they write a letter and then the Democrats brush it off and do something like this again. Like, I think it was on air, John, when you were talking to Trey Stewart and you at the debate on Tuesday, and you said, your next press conference, do it in front of Janet Mill's office. And he's like, yeah, that's a great idea. That's funny. And then they do the next press conference and it's not in front of Janet Mill's office. It's like, they got to start actually getting creative and fighting back here. And like, hopefully this is a wake up call, but you would have thought the last 30 things would have been a wake up call. I'm just throwing it out there if anyone's listening. Like, maybe you guys got to start, fighting, matching their tactics a little bit.
No, you're exactly right. They get their teeth kicked in over and over again with majority budgets shoved down their throat. The Democrats can't even, compromise on their late term abortion bill and restrict the sale of fetal baby parts. And then they think that they're going to be able to turn around and have, a nice speech that's going to persuade some leftist to vote in their favor. It's a different legislature than they had maybe 30 or 40 years ago. The nice friendly speeches aren't going to get them very far. But they made that mistake in 2010. They took over the House, the Senate, and Governor LePage was in the Blaine House, and they were like, we're going to show them that you can do it different. We're going to show them that you can run the state house like it's a nice friendly place to be. It was a very short-lived experiment. Which you're right, Graham, that every single time they're like Lucy with the football, or Charlie with the football, Charlie with Lucy's football, and they go swing and they kick it every single time. And I haven't had an exhaustive search for social media statements from other Republicans, but where is the unity here? Regardless of what disagreements you've had privately with Billy Bob, this isn't just about him. This is a message to every Republican lawmaker, and a message to every Democrat lawmaker, and a message to every government employee that it doesn't matter if it's $1,000 fine or a $2,000 fine. If you speak out, they're going to come at you and they're going to try and crush you. And whoever, all of the gubernatorial candidates right now should be making it their life mission to rubber room this Bart Hutchinson guy and everybody in his supply chain. Everybody up a command chain, whatever. The commissioner obviously is out day one, but every single person who had any oversight over the decision to come after Billy Bob, see you later. We're going to put you in a rubber room and pay you to stare at a wall if we can't actually get you fired. But this stuff just cannot be tolerated in a civil society. You can't breathe the same air as these people.
No, yeah, and Republicans right now need to be getting huge earned media out of this. This should be a national story. I'm sure it will be once all the boosters from the Maine Wire, hit orbit. It's an American story. And the dividing line is very clear here. It's an easy story to tell, too. We were talking about how difficult it is with all learning 18 different Somali names and getting them all right. This, you don't have to learn any names. This is somebody doing something American and a political machine trying to crush it. They should all be making hay out of this. They should run on this issue. And that's it. The Democrats hate working people. They hate American activities. They hate good old apple pie. They hate and they show that they do all the time. Maine's trying to be the butcher LGBTQIA rights capital of the country. Maine's trying to be the abortion capital of the country. And all that stuff's ugly and it's death and it's negativity. What's great is people learning trades, good old trades, the things that it's so substantive. It's not being on screens. It's not being it's not getting addicted to fentanyl. It's getting out with nature, which is one of the few things that Democrats haven't ruined yet in the state. Yeah. And so I think that this is such an opportunity. Come on, get on the stick, guys. God. All right, should we move to No Kings?
Yes. I had some family who were in town who found out that there was a local No Kings rally, and they decided that they were going to go participate. Part of their extracurricular activity was to go to the No Kings rally, and they thought with all the colleges in the area that there might be a more energetic presence at the rally, but they looked around and they saw all the walkers and the canes, and they were like, where are all the college kids? And we were like, college kids? Is this your first No Kings rally? Like, sorry, you are sorely mistaken. What political rally did you show up for? The young kids, actually, they're working right now. Yeah. They're working to pay the taxes for all these decrepit baby boomers' Social Security checks.
So John made a friend in Portland over the weekend. This is a musician. I think she was fantastic. I forgot what cut number it is, but you know what I mean, Graham.
I got it.
This is an inspiring, uplifting, positive song, right? About togetherness, about us networking, making positive change together.
Just look at how many children are
in the White House, and you're polishing his crown. As he falls asleep and shits himself, you treat him like a deity. It's grandiose, malignant, narcissistic personality, and you can't recognize it, or you do, but you don't mind, cause you're hopped up on the violence.
I want to know what the guy standing in the background is doing here.
Oh, get the fuck out of our town. Oh, get the fuck out of our town. You focus on the bonus for the quotas that you're filling. Have you never seen a movie? Can't you tell that you're the villain? But don't you for a second think we'll roll over and take it. You cosplay like a tough guy, but Mainers, we don't fake it. We'll watch you and we'll film you, maybe call you out by name. You can hide behind a mask, but you can't conceal the shame. And if you brutalize our neighbors and say that they deserve it, every fucking bitch in Portland's gonna be there to observe it. Oh, get the fuck out of our town. Oh, get the fuck out.
Yeah, like a dying you back there.
Oh my God.
This spastic sign language person to the right, of course, as usual.
That's the best part.
And they say like, you're LARPing, but we don't fake it. It's like half of you are dressed like alpacas and dinosaurs that day. We're like, who's LARPing? But you know what's funny?
That guy printed out the words resist and taped it to his cowboy hat, so you wouldn't.
To go on this team of stupid. We had one in Newburyport, which is a town near where I live, and it was full of folks. Even a few people had posters saying we need 1789. Do they not, like, what? Who didn't learn about the French Revolution and that it wasn't good? Like, since when are we saying, yeah, the French Revolution? Yeah, you killed the cake lady and her husband, but then everything went to shit if you read anything past that. But it's amazingly stupid. So I was in a restaurant over the weekend, and I heard some people come in from the rally. They said, how was the rally? And they said, wow, it was crazy. Can you believe it? 2 of our people who were with us got pulled away by the cops and detained briefly. They weren't even doing anything. And it hit me. These people really think, Steve, that when they're going out there, they think that they're in danger of being apprehended by fascist brown shirts. They really do. That's why they have like this air of, look how good I was today. Look how strong I was today with my sign and my thing about Trump, being a fat baby. You see? Because I'm like truth to power, man. And they probably wanted to get me, but they didn't get me today. Like, they believe this delusional horseshit.
I actually, after John sent that video this weekend, I spent some time doing some research to figure out who this woman is. And I actually found some clips of her on YouTube. I don't know if you guys have heard this before.
Is that Mrs. Lennon?
She's a very talented musician. Yeah.
That's tough. That's tough. Thankfully, young Sean Lennon is not on board with the No King stuff. but at least when the Beatles were doing stuff in the 60s, and I don't want to give, because these boomers here are just pathetic, but there was a war going on in a place that not too many people had heard of, that we kind of nudged ourselves into by bailing out the French Foreign Legion. And like there you could look at the late 60s and say, hang on a second, like we're carpet bombing, B-52s are out there over Cambodia. Why? It still doesn't mean you burn your draft card, because that's a compact you make with the country. And yeah, the civil rights movement, we were fresh off the civil rights movement. Anybody right now in 2026 has zero threats. None of these existential things, none of these black marks on our very dynasty and history exist in 2026. They are not here. This stuff is made up. This is all over. You know what's happening? These people, because they're so stupid and they listen to Maine public, these people have put themselves in the position where they believe that the Nazis are around every corner, because Trump has to be a Nazi, because who wouldn't believe everything that they believe? Who would vote for somebody different? And so they literally now are walking around LARPing, demanding that we let, they're all saying, the one that they love is saying Trump's a pedophile. These people are literally trying to protect pedophiles from out of the country from getting deported. John
and like 2/3 of them voted for Elliot Cutler, and where are they protesting Elliot Cutler getting an 8-month prison sentence? Nowhere to be found. They're fine with that. They're totally fine with that, because that's the system of justice that they've helped create. That is the Maine Democrat system of justice. You can have 80,000 or 90,000 terrifying, horrifying images of sexual abuse, and you'll get 8 months in prison. You can reoffend a bunch of times and you'll get out because you're a rich liberal and you agree with the right things. And maybe you've said something nasty about Trump, so you're one of the good people. So they're not going to take things too seriously against you.
No, and it's so disgraceful and dishonorable how anti-intellectual it is. It's like, the Trump's henchmen murdered 2 Americans. If you're saying, if I drive my car at a cop, the story has to be a little bit more that Tom Shattuck was murdered by the police. It's got to be a little bit more, because all you had to do that day was not hound law enforcement. That's all you had to do. And all that other guy had to do, the male nurse, was not kick a law enforcement's truck and tackle them and get in a wrestling match. That's all he had to do. But
the story is suicide by cop.
Yes.
Right. It's a very mundane, common story. It was suicide by cop. There just happened to be a bunch of cameras there, but it happens pretty frequently. There's lots of mental illness. That's the real tragedy. Is not a militarized police force. It's suicide by cop.
Yeah, it's just crazy. Before we go along the lines of the reality we're in, Jack Gately is down in Providence today. Somebody was making a mural of Irina Zarutska, the lovely Ukrainian girl doing the right thing, who was in America, who just got done working her job, who was stabbed by this psychotic and bled out on a train. They're trying to make a mural for her, but the mayor, who you might remember from the shooting at the college, who's a totally inept guy, the mayor has a problem with it. He wants it gone. They say it sends the wrong message. If we can play a little bit of Gately out there, Graham.
This is a 7-minute video, but we'll play a minute or so.
Here in Providence on Snow Street outside of the Dark Lady nightclub, and this mural here has been paused by the owners of the Dark Lady, which is a gay bar in downtown Providence. It depicts partially Irina Zarutska. No disrespect if I got the name wrong. We're actually here to honor her, as the intent of the mural was to honor her. But the work has now been stopped by the owners of the bar and the mayor here in Providence, Mayor Smiley, who we last saw as part of the horrific response to the Brown University shootings. Mayor Smiley has asked for the removal of the entire mural over the weekend. And what has happened, basically, is the folks that own the bar, which has got the rainbow flags on it, and your typical gay bar, if you've ever seen one, and these folks here who self-describe themselves as
I'm really disappointed that Jack's not wearing assless chaps for this. That this is what would have it would have really made the clip if he had walked up towards the mural wearing assless chaps. But sorry for the interruption.
Democrats have run up against a far left, even more Democrats, farther left than most of your Democrats, who are offended by this mural because it's seen as a right-wing symbol, something that President Trump has spoke about, and this mural and many other similar type of memorials for Irina Zarutska across the country are funded in part by Elon Musk, who is, of course, the most terrible billionaire on the face of the planet, as everyone knows. And so the far left here in Providence has bullied the Democrats who own the gay bar, the regular Democrats who own the gay bar, into halting the project. And the mayor, who I believe is facing a challenge, Mayor Smiley, from the far left, Smiley is facing a challenge from the far left, has gone along with the far left. So this is the statement from the owners of the bar, known as the Dark Lady, here in downtown Providence. I will also, just as a point of information, let you know that in this area, within a block or two, there has to be 7 or 8 other murals that are as big or larger in this general vicinity. So here's a statement on Instagram from the Dark Lady owners, Randy and Buck. And it goes on. It's very, very lengthy, so we won't read everything. We'll just kind of skim it for you.
I don't need to hear a very, very lengthy statement from Randy and Buck, but I think I get the point, unless there's something I'm missing there, Tom.
So, Steve, what's the problem here? She's a woman. She's
white. No, it's white. She's white. She's white, and the aggressor was black. And this is a reminder about the disproportionate level of violence carried out against white people by black people. This was wanton violence by a recidivist criminal who should have been behind bars after his second or third arrest, maybe even after his first arrest. He stabbed her in the neck in cold blood, and she bled out with no one to help her. That's pure and simple what it is. If she had a different skin complexion, if she was lesbian, if she was trans, if they could somehow pin this on white people, there'd be no problem with this whatsoever. Think how many murals went up of George Floyd, who died of a fentanyl overdose while he was being detained by police. And even conservatives were just like, okay, it's kind of weird, but whatever. Go ahead, have your George Floyd way and your George Floyd holidays. But that's completely what it is. It's all racially motivated. They can't allow for someone like Irina to have any monuments, because it countervails their narrative that the real oppressor is the patriarchy, white straight men. That's what the problem is.
Yeah, and it just plays into and fuels the nationwide. Actually, it's global, as a matter of fact, because they had no King's rallies in London.
In Canada, in London and Canada, yes, it's fantastic.
But it fuels just this global delusion, that we had to go through after the George Floyd thing. 10 minutes after George Floyd, people said, "What do you mean? You don't know Juneteenth? Of course, Juneteenth. It's always been a thing. You don't know it, racist." Like, no, nobody knew it. Okay, nobody knew it. Nobody knew about Black Wall Street. Nobody. But now you have to pretend. If you're any of these people who are, wearing the pussy hats and going to no King's rallies, you have to pretend we're doing Juneteenth this year. Of course, we're always doing it. Happy Kwanzaa. It's like, it is such a disservice to society altogether. And by the way, another thing you said, Steve, is that this woman was the wrong color. If she was black, it's still not a story. The Dems don't care about black on black crime.
Well, that's true. Yeah, I did err in that. Yes, you're right about that.
This is just a low moment. Oh, New England is so gross. Frig. God, I had the chance to get out of here. Fuck. Oh, now I'm locked in because big government again, because I had to get a lead remediation because of freaking regulations. I guess I should be talking to my psychologist about this.
No, that's what Maine Wire TV is. It's a daily rap session for our own mental health. I do want to hear from Mr. Featherston, by the way. Very valiantly tapped in for me at the Penobscot Lincoln Day dinner. got to rub elbows with some of the dignitaries of the Maine Republican Party. How'd that go? I heard very positive feedback from the Fethy fan club. They're pulling for you to come do for Bangor what you've done for Lewiston. Although you might actually get murdered if you show up at the Bangor City Council, because there's a legit murderer on that city council.
Well, it was fun to have dinner with Senator Susan Collins on Saturday night. And you know, she's a big fan of the Maine Wire, so that makes it very, very nice. But you know, and she came out shooting a little bit, you know, too. She kind of went after Mills, and I asked her why Democrats are afraid of voter ID, and she came after Mills. We talked about fraud. It was nice to see a fired up Susan Collins. Great event. Most of the gubernatorial candidates were there as well, and none of them spoke. But great event. I mean, wonderful event. Thank you for the invite, and thank you for letting me sit in for you, Steve. But great time. I mean, you know, and as I highlighted, and I told, you know, the audience, and there was, you know, probably 250, 300 people there. Like, you need to pay attention, and you need to reelect a Republican governor in this next election cycle. And you've got 8 good choices, and you need to decide who it is. And you need to go out and tell all your friends who you're voting for too, so they can go out and vote. But if you don't, all the fraud is going to continue in here. Yeah. And the bullying you're seeing with Billy Bob will only even grow, because they know that they're entrenched in power. So, you know, you got to stop the fraud. You got to stand up for Billy Bob. You've got to stand up for your local small businesses that are being, you know, overregulated to death. And like, now is the time. If people aren't pissed off or paying attention, I don't know what it's going to take to get them to. But you know,
what an insane time, though. What an insane time where a beautiful young woman stabbed to death by an insane criminal on a train. If you're concerned with that, that's right coded. If you're worried about Medicaid fraud, which is effectively criminals stealing from the lower class and middle class and ruining benefit programs that are supposed to fight poverty, that's right coded. Yeah, you can only be conservative if you're concerned about fraud or fragile young women being murdered, or if you're worried about the abuse of government power to punish small businesses. That now is also right coded. So what do progressives stand for? Punishing small business owners, murdering women on trains, protecting the mentally ill, and, you know, facilitating foreign political factions, robbing us through various fraud schemes. You know, that's the foundational platform of the modern Democrat Party.
Yeah, you know, and if you're, I was just going to say, if you're not mad about all of that when you should be, you look at how many children have died under DHS in the Mills administration. How many children have been affected? And then, as Steve pointed out, a woman went 9 months without taking a shower at Paradise Residential. And when we went to do the story in Lewiston about the guy who hadn't showered in months, and your healthcare worker literally looking at, well, you can't make them take a shower. But no, you can't make them, but you can, if you really care about people, you can encourage people. And there's other ways to bathe people other than taking showers. So we're not even taking care of the vulnerable people here in the state. We're bullying people. We're not taking care of the vulnerable. And people are driving G-Wagons, and, you know, other people can't pay their mortgage or their, you know, their oil bill or electric bill in this state. This state is upside down, you know.
If you want to hear, by the way, the indignant.
Nope, we lost Tom real quick. I was gonna end it on a happy note, though, because I heard Scott Bessett now's he's dealing out 30% checks for anybody who finds welfare fraud. Oh, baby. You know what? If we just get 1/3 of all the G-Wagons and Jaguars that we found, we are going to be, we probably won't be able to pay the car insurance on them or the excise tax. But if Scott Bessett makes good on that promise to hook us up, I mean, the Maine Wire is going national, baby. The amount of fraud we're going to have hundreds of millions of dollars kicking around here. I might buy the Bangor Daily News just to fire them all.
And if you want to, I would recommend to anybody, if you want to hear who the people, who these fraudsters, what they feel about you, and you complaining that they're stealing your money to drive G-Wagons, I would have you listen to our last episode with our new friend Duke Mann.
Great episode.
Take it all in. All right. I want to say for Graham Pollard and Steve Robinson of the Robinson Report, John Featherston. By the way, guys, join us. Sign up for the Robinson Report. Come and enjoy the chat here that we like here. Remember about a month or 3 weeks ago, I think I was called Jabba by somebody from the chat. I was subsequently now sent a Jabba mug.
Oh, wow. That's a thing of beauty.
Call me more things, please. I like material possession. All right, with that, we will see you tomorrow and every day at 4 p.m. This is Maine Wire TV.